Hey guys, today we'll be learning about the Canon EF 16-35mm F2.8 2 lens. Now this lens is a very special lens that we have in the YearBurke arsenal of lenses. It's one of the more expensive lenses that we have. It might be the most expensive lens in the cabinet currently as I'm making this review. So I want to go over some features as to how to use this lens properly and how to not break this lens, because this lens was broken in the past before. And we just want to make sure our staff of photographers is well prepared for using and being responsible for this equipment. Now this lens, right off the bat, we're going to go over the body. This lens is a mostly plastic construction, but being a Canon L lens, as dignified by the red ring, as you can see here, this lens is relatively expensive. So we don't want to treat this lens like a baby, but we also don't want to be abusive with this lens, because this lens can take a beating, but it can only take so much of a beating, like any other lens or person. Alright, so on the body right here, we have the autofocus and manual focus button. As I mentioned in another video, Canon L lenses have full-time manual focus. That means that it is very unnecessary to place the lens in manual focus mode, because as in autofocus mode we can still use the manual focus ring and not have any problems. Now this is a wide angle zoom lens. We wouldn't consider it ultra wide yet, but it is quite wide. Right here we have the zoom. This lens zooms internally. Our kit lenses that we have, we call them kit lenses because they come in the kit. The 18-55mm variable aperture lenses, they don't have an internal zoom. So you'll notice when you zoom in with those lenses, the lens actually comes out and goes back in a little bit, as does the focusing. Now, most, if not all, of Canon L lenses, except for the 70-200 or the 70-300, the only one I can think of, has internal focusing and internal zooming. So you'll notice when you focus and when you zoom, you'll notice that when you zoom, it's actually internal within the body of the lens. So you don't need to worry about any protrusions or anything like that. Now, in mastering this lens, we want to keep in mind a few things. A wide-angle lens has a couple of drawbacks. One of the drawbacks is at the widest end of the lens, at 16mm, there is some noticeable distortion. So we don't want to use this lens at the widest zoom range to take, let's say, portraits of people or like formal portraits or anything like that. This wide lens is for mainly landscapes, large groups of people, some more candid shots. We don't want anything formal taken at the wide end of this lens. Now, as we zoom in to the 35mm range, distortion of this lens, meaning that sort of fisheye look where you actually look wider than you should in real life, the distortion at the 35mm end starts to disappear, which is what we want for our more formal more formal photographs. So, one thing to keep in mind when we're taking our formal photographs, we want to keep the lens at the most zoomed in as we can possible, because that will make for the best photo in the end. All right, so not talking about distortion now, we are going to go ahead and talk about the aperture of this lens. Now, one thing that myself, and I'm sure most other people, enjoy about this lens is that it has a constant f2.8 aperture. Now, f2.8 gives about a full stop. Full stop meaning ISO 800 to 1600 or ISO 200 to 400. That much difference. It gives that much difference of light to this lens. So with this lens, we can actually shoot at a faster shutter speed, a lower ISO, to get some more clear and detailed pictures, which is extremely useful in terms of what we're trying to do at YearBurke, which is increase the quality of our photos more and more each year. So this lens with the low maximum aperture is really going to help out with some drawbacks to photography. With the lens itself, we're going to go over a few applications of this lens. Now, this lens can be used to take some indoor sports photography. When we're trying to get some wide shots from up close, let's say something like basketball, where we're just about right next to the net or at the edge of the court, and we want to just get some better perspective shots. This lens, with its wide aperture and slight distortion, can actually give some very cool shots that most other photographers and other yearbooks wouldn't have. So we're going to try this out during the winter season with basketball a little bit. Another thing to note about this lens, along with almost every other Canon L lens, as I said before, a Canon L lens is dignified by the red ring. This lens has an ultrasonic motor, which the USM stands for ultrasonic motor. The Canon 100-400 also has an ultrasonic motor, and a great advantage of this ultrasonic motor is quick and quiet focus speeds. Now, if there's one thing about Canon lenses that other manufacturers can't beat, is that Canon has one of the fastest focus speeds on almost all of its lenses. This lens is no exception. The focus speed is just extremely quick. On Canon telephotos, the focus speed is extremely quick. That's what makes the Canon telephoto lenses and other Canon lenses extremely useful over their third-party competitors. And that is why I recommend that, as for the yearbook staff, we keep on purchasing Canon glass, which stands for lenses. So, to go over a few things about this lens, the front element of the lens also dignifies the filter size, 82 millimeters. Currently in our yearbook arsenal, we do not have any 82 millimeter filters. I don't believe we will need any. I don't recommend always using a UV filter. The only time when a UV filter can really be useful is if we're outdoors with this lens and it's raining, or it's blizzarding or hailing, or we're in a sandstorm where we really want to protect the front of our lens. Other than that, I don't find it very necessary, as long as we're careful and responsible with our lenses. One last thing to note about this lens, to make you feel more comfortable using it. This lens is solidly built. It's expensive because it's solidly built and made with quality. We also note on this lens that there is a rubber gasket seal around the edge, making it a little bit more weather sealed, meaning that it'll keep out extra dust, water, and dirt particles. So we can be a little safe in our minds knowing that there is a rubber gasket sort of keeping out extra crap from our cameras and our lens. So to the yearbook staff, I just want to let you know that this is the Canon 16-35mm F2.8 USM lens, and this was a learning lenses video for the North High School yearbook.